Hi, our names are Filippa
and Alexander,
and we are going to talk about Australia and compare it to Sweden. Let's begin.
Australia is the world's sixth largest country on Earth. This area contains everything from deep lakes to snow mountains, ski boards, deadly animals to endangered creatures.
Asia has a lot to offer, but there is yet much left to explore. It all began about 50,000 years ago, when the enormous land was uninhabited. But it was shortly after the first aborigine placed its foot on the continent, and it became inhabited.
After crossing the sea from South Asia, these people came to be the first Australians and the ancestors of modern indigenous Australians. When they arrived in Australia, they divided into many different tribes. They lived by their beliefs and close to nature, hunting and surviving across the country. Unlike the rest of the world, the Aborigines of Australia didn't live to find out about the Stone Age or the Iron Age, like we did in Sweden. They used the same survival skills as they did from the beginning.
They were in fact the first people to have used a boomerang, but they didn't use it to make time pass. They used it to hunt animals. They were also one of the first people to rub two sticks to each other to create a fire. Many of their rituals still lives today and are celebrated as part of the Australian culture.
In 1788, when the British, led by James Cook, arrived in Australia to start colonizing the island, the Aboriginal people had a very tough time. The British never really saw the Aborigines as humans, or at least not as highly ranked as themselves. They were looking down at the Aborigines. Ever since the British started to colonize, the Aborigines has always been looked down on. They didn't get to vote until 1960.
The pupils in Australian schools has to wear school uniform. The only exception is if they go to a private school who has their own rules about clothes. In Sweden, we don't have uniforms at all. Some might think the idea of wearing uniforms is old-fashioned, but it is very effective since no one has to worry about their clothing. Everyone dresses the same, which can prevent bullying. It's cheaper, but of course it has its backsides, like kids who can't express themselves. It may feel trapping or boring. It feels free not having to wear the same clothes as everyone else. Here in Sweden, having free school lunch is the same as having free oxygen. Australian pupils, on the other hand, has to pay for their lunch every day. But it isn't as bad as it sounds, as you get to choose what food you want to buy from a menu. Of course, it also depends on what you think is cheap or expensive, because the prices on the school lunches varies.
School in Australia also has the rule as Sweden does: compulsory school attendance. We have duty to go to school up until after you finish post-secondary school. And after that, you are allowed to quit. But then of course, if you wish not to quit school after post-secondary school, there are a lot of different high schools you could attend. And after high school, there is college for those who can afford it.
In 2008, 20.4% of the Aussie population attended school, which represents about 4.3 million people. About 75% of the population receives a secondary diploma. The duty makes it hard to drop out. However, only 34% of them manages to get a post-secondary diploma. These statistics in Sweden are a bit higher. These statistics in Sweden are a bit higher than in Australia.
The Aussies spend their leisure time in many different ways, but there are some activities that stand out from the rest. The inhabitants may seem adventurous due to the big variety of environments the country contains, but about 83% of the total population of 28 million people are urban, and the trip to the deserts or the world is a popular experience.
The Aussies enjoy spending time with family and friends. The most popular activity Aussies enjoy when they are with their close ones is the traditional Aussie barbecue. Another way they spend time with family is traveling to the wild, enjoying the beautiful lands and the wildlife.
Other important aspects of leisure time in the Australian society is sporting activities such as surfing, skiing, fishing or playing football rugby, one of the biggest sports in the country. Horseback riding is also one popular sport. Alcohol consumption is also very popular. Going to bars or drinking liquors at barbecues is common. Very much like the Swedish leisure time. We use what we have in nature and spend time there. In Sweden, for example, we ski a lot, but surfing may not be as available.
Honestly, Australia and Sweden have much in common, yet there is much left to explore from one to the other. Every country has its own signatures, and in Australia, we would say that the culture makes it stand out. The importance of the Aboriginal beliefs and how it is respected still to this day. The love from the people to the nature. As Swedes, we find it hard to talk about the past history, since we don't know that much. In Australia it lives, but it does have its backsides, with an old-fashioned school system and slower growth in the modern aspects.
But still, the Australians appreciate and are more than proud of their culture. We have learned a lot about Aussie through this assignment, and I hope you have too. Thanks for listening.